The gate camera saw my daughter before it saw me. I didn't know that yet. All I knew was my suitcase wheel was rattling, my flight had landed late, and my phone was begging for life on a dying battery. I turned onto our street, and my headlights found something small and still near the mailbox. Lena wasn't playing, not pacing, just standing there, like somebody had put her down and forgotten. For a second, my brain tried to make it normal. Maybe she'd run out for the mail. Maybe she'd dropped a toy. Maybe she was waiting for the neighbor's dog. But she didn't wave. She didn't even look up until my car fully stopped. Then she turned her head slowly, like the movement cost her. Her cheeks were too pale. Snow clung to her lashes. Her hands were jammed under her armpits like she'd learned a new way to be small. "Mom," she said. It wasn't relief. It was permission. I got out fast and crouched in front of her, palms on her shoulders through her jacket. She was stiff. Not, "It's chilly," stiff. "I've been out here too long." Stiff. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice even because she needed even. "I'm here." She nodded once like she was confirming data. Then she folded into me and started shaking, no sobs, just raw shivers that made my ribs ache. "How long have you been outside?" I asked. She shrugged against my coat. "A while." That answer was a trap. A while could be minutes in kid language, or it could be something you call the police about. I pulled back enough to see her face. "Where's Grandma?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward the porch, then down to her boots. She said I shouldn't go in, and my stomach dropped. I lifted my gaze to the house. The first thing I saw wasn't the light or the curtains. It was the glossy banner stabbed into my lawn. Pending. Big letters. Smiling couple. A little fake sparkle in the print that made it look like a celebration someone else was having in my yard. I hadn't listed my house. I hadn't called a realtor. I hadn't told anyone I was selling. Lena's fingers tightened in my sleeve. "Mom, are we not living here anymore?" Her voice went thin at the end, like she didn't want the sentence to finish. "No," I said quickly. "We live here, you and me," but Grandma said. "I know," I cut in, then softened. "I'm going to handle it." I stood up slowly, kept my arm around her like a seatbelt, and walked us to the front door. It opened before I knocked. Not wide, just a crack. My mother's face appeared, perfectly composed. Makeup done, hair brushed. The kind of calm that tells you she's been practicing. "Oh," she said, like I'd come home early and ruined her schedule. "You're back." Behind her, boxes stacked like walls, blue tape on the floor. The living room looked hollow, like someone had been pulling my life apart and labeling it. My dad hovered farther back, holding packing tape. At the dining table, my sister Tori scrolled her phone, humming like this was a minor inconvenience. My mother's eyes flicked down at Lena, then back up at me. "She's inside now." "Good." I stared at her. "You left her outside. She had a jacket," Mom said. Lena made a tiny sound. Swallowed it. I felt something hot rise behind my ribs, then cool into a quiet, hard shape. "What is that sign?" I asked, nodding at the yard. "It's a step forward," Mom said. "A step forward for who?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "We made a decision. For the family," Tori said without looking up. I scanned the boxes again. One had my name. Another had Lena in all caps. My grip tightened around her hand. "You packed my kids' stuff," I said. Mom sighed. "We're being efficient." Efficient. Like what they'd done was neat. "What did you tell her?" I asked, voice low. Lena answered, barely audible. Grandma said, "I'm homeless now." My mother's mouth stayed neutral. "It's not inaccurate," she said. I heard my own breathing. "You told a child she was homeless." "She needs to understand reality," Mom said. And it almost sounded reasonable if you didn't picture a child freezing by a mailbox. Dad tried his usual line. "Maya, you've been gone. You don't know what we've been dealing with." There it was. The pivot. Make it about them. Make my absence the crime. I looked at Lena's purple fingers and the way she kept glancing at my mother like she still wanted permission to breathe. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a fight they could frame as me being emotional. I just said, "Okay." Mom frowned. "Excuse me?" "Okay," I repeated. I kissed Lena's head, turned us around, and walked out. Mom's voice rose behind me. "Maya, don't you dare." The door clicked shut. Outside, the cold felt sharp. I buckled Lena into her seat with hands that were too calm. She watched me like she was reading my face. "Are we really?" "No," I said. "We're not." I drove until the streetlights changed, until Lena's shaking slowed, until my own thoughts stopped ricocheting. Then I parked in a hotel lot that smelled like wet asphalt and cheap detergent. From the back seat, Lena whispered, "Mom, did I do something wrong?" That's when I knew it wasn't just about a sign. It was about a little girl learning adults can rewrite her safety and call it a lesson. Before I tell you what I did next, choose your instinct in the comments. Comment A if you'd confront them immediately. Comment B if you'd stay quiet and start collecting proof. I chose B, and that choice is why my mother didn't sleep the next night. The hotel room was warm in a way that felt wrong. Beige walls, a crooked print, a heater that worked too hard. Lena ate fries and kept her jacket on anyway, even in bed. I didn't tell her to take it off. Kids don't do that for fun. When she fell asleep, her jacket stayed folded at the foot of the bed, not tossed, placed, emergency neat. My phone buzzed. "Mom, Dad, Tori." Again, I let it ring. My battery icon was a sliver. I wasn't avoiding them because I couldn't handle a conversation. I was avoiding them because if I spoke to my mother right then, she'd use my tone against me. She'd turn my panic into proof I was unstable. She'd say I was overreacting, that she was protecting Lena from my chaos. She'd say it with that tight smile that makes other people doubt their own eyes. In the bathroom, I ran the faucet for noise and called Cal, my ex. He answered fast, cautious. "Hey, what time did you drop Lena off today?" I asked. "After lunch," he said. "Clock time," I said. A breath. "A little after 1, he said finally. "I watched your mom open the door. Lena went up the steps." She waved at me. I closed my eyes. My arrival had been after dark. "Did my mom say anything?" I asked. He gave a short laugh. She barely looked at me. I exhaled. "Thank you. If anyone contacts you about this, don't engage. Just tell me." "Done," he said. "I'm not stepping in that." We hung up. I stared at the mirror and let the timeline settle like a stone. Then I went back out and sat on the edge of the bed watching Lena sleep, like sleep could erase what she'd learned. In the morning, she woke hungry. That mattered. She asked for waffles like the world was still the kind of place where waffles existed. I said yes to everything. Syrup, extra fruit, a second little carton of milk. After breakfast, I took her to school like we were normal. I braided her hair in the car with shaking hands, kissed her forehead, and watched her walk inside. She didn't look back as many times as she normally did. That scared me more than any voicemail. In the parking lot, I called the non-emergency line. I gave facts, not feelings. My child was denied entry to her home. She was told she didn't live there anymore. She was left outside in freezing weather. Adults in the home appeared to be staging a real estate sale, without the owner. The operator's voice sharpened into focus. She asked for names, address, window of time. She gave me a report number and a reminder to keep any messages, photos, or footage. Documentation. Then I called a lawyer. A friend had texted me one name with no extra words. That's how you know it's serious. Harlan listened without reacting. Then he asked, "Are you the sole owner?" "Yes." 8. Are they on the deed? "No." "Did you authorize a sale?" "No." Any document granting them authority? He asked. A limited power of attorney, I said. For childcare emergencies, not property. Email it, he said. Now, I did. He called back and said, Your document doesn't authorize real estate. That helps, but it doesn't stop them from presenting a different document. My stomach went cold. A different document? Surprise is useful, he said. Do not warn them. Let them make mistakes in writing. I went back to work, because life doesn't stop for betrayal. In a conference room, I smiled at a coworker's joke, while my mind pictured my daughter's stillness by the mailbox. I took notes like nothing was wrong. I felt like an actress reading lines over a fire. That afternoon, my phone lit up like a fire alarm. Dad left a voicemail. Voice strained. They're saying the file is on hold. They're asking questions. Call me. Fix it. Mom's voicemail was clipped and furious. They're accusing us. Correct this, Tori texted. What did you do? Somebody official had just told them no. For a moment, I almost felt relief, like the universe had stepped in. Then my mother left another voicemail, soft this time. Honey, we're just worried about Lena, she said. We're the only ones thinking ahead. She said it like a compliment to herself. And I realized something else. She was already building her explanation for when people asked why a child was outside. I didn't answer. I saved everything. Lena looked up from cartoons that night. Are they yelling? They're upset, I said. Why? Because they don't like being told stop, I said. That night, for the first time, she took her jacket off before she fell asleep. I stared at the folded jacket and wondered what kind of adult makes a kid treat clothing like armor. The next day, I let myself believe it might calm down. That was my mistake. Harlan texted. I found the listing. Stand by. A few hours later, he called. There's an active contract, he said. Not a completed sale. That banner is marketing. So it isn't final, I said, and my chest loosened a fraction. Not yet, he replied. But your parents represented themselves as authorized agents. Agents, I repeated. Words matter, he said. Their words created an entire transaction. I wanted to drive straight home, rip the banner out of the ground, and throw every box onto the lawn. But that's what my mother wanted. A scene. Something she could describe later with her hand pressed to her chest. So instead, I did something that felt almost insulting in its calm. I bought Lena a new toothbrush and a cheap stuffed animal from the hotel gift shop. I let her pick the color. She chose one that was obnoxiously bright. She named it Spark, like she was daring the world to keep being dark. For a few hours, we had a reset. We watched cartoons. We ate takeout. She laughed once, a real laugh, and I felt my body unclench. Then an unknown number called. I answered, because it wasn't my mother. A woman's voice, professional and cautious. Hi, is this Maya Albright? Yes, I said. I'm with the title company handling a transaction on your property, she said, and my pulse jumped. We received a notice from your attorney stating you dispute authorization. We need to confirm you did not list your home for sale? I did not, I said. Have you signed a power of attorney giving your relatives authority to sell real estate? She asked. No, I said. I signed a limited document for childcare emergencies only. There was a pause as she typed. Then, carefully, we have a document in our file. My stomach dropped. What document? A power of attorney, she said. Signed in your name. I want a copy, I said. You will receive it through your attorney, she replied. But I need to ask directly. Is that signature yours? It looks like mine, I said honestly. But I did not sign a document that includes real estate authority. Her voice shifted, still calm, but colder. Then we will escalate this to our fraud team. I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there on the edge of the bed with my hands flat on my knees, feeling my heart beat slow and heavy. When Lena came out of the bathroom in her pajamas, she said, "Can we go home tomorrow?" I forced a smile. "We'll see. Why can't we just go home?" she asked, and her voice had that small edge kids get when they're trying not to cry. "Because your grandparents turned our house into a weapon," I thought. Instead, I said, "Because I want it to be safe." She nodded like she understood, but she didn't. Not fully. She just trusted my tone. That night, my mother tried a new tactic. She didn't call from her number. She used a private line and left a voicemail I could practically see her rehearsing. "Maya, honey," she said softly. "Your father is sick over this. These people are asking humiliating questions. We were only trying to help you. You've been overwhelmed. We thought you'd be grateful." Grateful. The word made my teeth hurt. Then, faint in the background, I heard a small beep beep like a keypad. Our front door had a smart lock. My mother hates technology. She still calls streaming that internet TV. She'd complained for months about having to type a code instead of using a key. So why were there keypad tones behind her wounded voicemail? The lock app keeps a history. Time-stamped entries, codes used, failed attempts. My thumb hovered over the activity log. Once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. I scrolled to the day Cal dropped Lena off. Multiple failed entries, then an unlock by my mother's code. Then, nothing for a long stretch of nothing. And then, later, another unlock right around the time I found Lena outside. My breath caught so hard it hurt. That quiet stretch in the log lined up perfectly with a while. She hadn't just told Lena to wait. She'd locked her out, on purpose, and she'd tried to hide it with a voicemail that accidentally let the keypad beeps slip through. I took screenshots of everything, then I opened the camera app connected to our doorbell. I hadn't checked it in months. It felt invasive, like spying on my own home, but the footage wasn't cinematic. It was worse. It was ordinary. Lena walking up the steps, backpack bouncing, the door opening, my mother standing there, smiling like a good grandmother. Lena stepping inside. Then, later, Lena stepping back out. She stood on the porch for a long moment. She knocked. She waited. She looked down the driveway like she expected my car to appear by magic. She knocked again. Then she walked to the gate. Not dramatic. Not screaming. Just obeying. I watched my child learn obedience was safer than insisting. I stopped the video before my throat closed. I emailed the screenshots and a clip to Harlan with one sentence. Door log plus camera support lockout. He replied fast. Excellent. Save originals. Do not engage. I didn't sleep much. Not from panic. From building a timeline. Harlan's office was quiet and aggressively normal. Fluorescent lights, a printer, a man who turned panic into procedure. He slid a folder toward me. "Here's what happened," he said. "The listing was initiated by your parents," he explained. "They contacted a brokerage. They presented themselves as your authorized agents. An offer came in. They accepted. Title ran ownership and found you as sole owner. That's when the transaction hit reality." He placed 2 documents side by side, my original limited power of attorney and the one they submitted. The differences were brutal. The submitted version included authority to sell, transfer, execute. They added language, I said. "Yes," he answered. "Material alteration, used in a transaction. That's forgery." There it was. No shouting, no theatrics, just the word that makes professionals sit up. He showed me emails, too. My mother's polite tone, my father's harmless act, Tori's cheerful punctuation talking about transitioning me and making room and what the family needs. In one message, my mother wrote, "We can't let Maya's choices limit the rest of us. Limit." Like my home was a shared budget line. Then Harlan tapped my printed lock log screenshots. This supports the child endangerment report, he said. I watched his pen circle the quiet stretch, the long absence of unlocks, like a stain you couldn't scrub out. Do you know what's going to save you here? He asked. The deed? I said. That, he replied, and the technology they forgot exists. He asked for my original document file, not just the PDF. Metadata matters, he said. Sometimes you can show when a file was created and when it was modified. I sent it to him. He nodded, almost pleased. Good. I signed revocations and notices, dates, initials, boring ink with sharp teeth. One more issue, he said. They're still living there. We remove them, I said. He nodded. Your daughter shouldn't return until the property is clear. She won't, I said. On my way out, my phone buzzed with a photo from my mother. My kitchen counter, my coffee mug, like a trophy. Caption: You can't do this without us. Sure, certain. Still convinced her tone was authority, I forwarded it to Harlan and blocked her. That night, Lena asked, Will Grandma be mad at me? Grandma is mad at me, I said. That's not yours. I watched Lena's face, the way she tried to accept that answer like it was a rule. Kids love rules because rules feel like rails. Adults like my mother use rules like weapons. Before the last part, weigh in. Comment 0 if you'd press charges for forgery and the lockout. Comment 1 if you'd keep it private to protect family peace. I didn't decide on rage. I decided on the log. The day enforcement was scheduled, I didn't bring Lena. She stayed with my friend Jessa making cookies, safe and distracted. I parked down the block from my house, far enough that my mother couldn't see me from the window. A patrol car arrived without lights. A deputy walked up with a folder like he'd done this 1,000 times. He knocked. My mother argued, mouth moving fast. My father hovered. Tori appeared with tears ready. None of it mattered. Procedure doesn't care about performance. Minutes later, the front door opened and they came out with bags, not boxes. My mother kept her chin high like she was leaving on principle, not being removed. Then she spotted me. She walked toward me, still believing proximity was power. I hope you're proud, she said. I let the silence hang for a beat. I'm relieved, I said. You're tearing this family apart, she hissed. No, I said. You did. I just stopped pretending. My father tried, voice soft. Maya, we can talk. We made a mistake. You altered a legal document, I said. That's not a mistake. Tori sobbed louder, like volume could change definitions. The deputy called my mother back. She hesitated, like she expected the world to bend. It didn't. When they left, the deputy handed me my keys and a paper. Property is secured, he said. I thanked him. My voice sounded normal. That felt strange. Inside, the house smelled like cleaning spray and cardboard. Boxes everywhere. My home reduced to labels. Listing sheets sat by my coffee maker like a magazine spread of my own life. I walked room to room slowly, checking for what was missing and what was changed. The worst part wasn't damage. It was the little rearrangements things moved to prove someone else had been in charge. My mother's handwriting on labels, my father's tape on drawers, my sister's cheerful, fragile stickers on my picture frames. In Lena's room, her bed was still there, but her drawings were gone from the wall. A strip of lighter paint showed where they'd been, like a ghost outline. I found them in a box, neatly stacked, like art in storage. I put them back up before Lena arrived, one by one, because I didn't want her first sight to be absence. Then I opened the front door and let cold air rush in, like I needed the house to breathe again. Jessa arrived with Lena. Lena climbed out and stopped at the bottom step. She didn't run. She stared at the doorway like it might reject her again. I walked down and held my hand out. It's clear, I said. She took my hand with a grip that told me she was still deciding if safety was real. Inside, she kicked off her shoes carefully and placed them by the door like a ritual. "They're not here," she said. "No," I answered. She went to her room and began unpacking her stuffed animals one by one, lining them up like she was rebuilding a tiny army of comfort. No tears. No speeches. Just work. I sat on the floor with her for a while, handing her animals as she asked, letting her set the pace. Every now and then, she glanced at the window like she expected my mother's car to appear. I didn't tell her it wouldn't. I couldn't guarantee that yet. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You think paper makes you safe?" It doesn't. My stomach dropped. Because my mother was out of my house, but she still wanted me to feel watched. I forwarded it to Harlan. Then I turned my phone off. Later that night, after Lena was asleep, I reopened the doorbell footage and watched one more clip I hadn't looked at yet. It was from the moment I arrived home that first night. The camera had recorded Lena standing by the mailbox, still as a statue. It captured my car pulling up. It captured her slow turn. It captured her saying, "Mom?" like a question. And then this is the detail I didn't notice in real time. The clip also caught my mother's silhouette behind the curtain. She was watching, not rushing out, not checking on Lena, just watching from behind glass like it was an experiment. I sat in the dark living room with my laptop open and that frozen silhouette on the screen, and my skin went cold all over again. That was the last piece I needed for myself. Not for court, not for the file, for my own mind. Because the hardest part of these stories is when people say, "Are you sure?" Maybe she didn't realize. Maybe she meant well. The curtain silhouette erased every maybe. That night, Lena slept without her jacket. She slept hard. I stood in the hallway, lights off, listening to the house settle. No celebration, no happy ending, just a heavy calm and the knowledge that some betrayals don't come with a dramatic soundtrack. They come with a smile and a banner in your yard. Weeks later, paperwork moved the way paperwork does. Slow, cold, final. The contract died. The listing vanished. The fraud file stayed open. My parents sent messages through other people. I didn't answer. Silence became the only boundary they couldn't argue with. A couple days after we returned, a social worker left a message asking to speak with me. Her tone was polite, almost gentle, and that gentleness made my stomach twist. It meant the report had moved past interesting and into, "We have to check." She met me at Lena's school, in a little office with posters about feelings. Lena colored at a table while two adults used calm voices to talk about fear. The social worker asked Lena simple questions. "Where did you wait? Were you cold? Did you feel safe?" Lena answered like she was reciting lines she'd practiced in her head. "I waited where Grandma told me. I was cold. I didn't want to get Grandma in trouble." When she said that last part, I felt my throat close. My daughter had been taught that protecting adults mattered more than her own body. The social worker looked at me and didn't accuse. She just said, "Thank you for taking her somewhere warm. Keep the documentation you have. It helps us understand the full picture." After she left, Lena asked, "Am I in trouble?" "No," I told her. "You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You stayed alive." She stared at her crayons. "Grandma said if I complained, you'd be mad." That line hit me harder than any forged paper. Because it explained the stillness by the mailbox. It explained the obedience. It explained why she didn't cry until she was in my arms. That night, I started a new routine without making a big speech about it. I checked the locks twice. I put my phone on the charger where I could grab it fast. I taught Lena a simple rule. If anyone ever tells you to wait outside again, you go to the neighbor with the blue porch light and you knock until someone answers. No apologies, no asking permission, just knock. She nodded, serious. Then she asked if Spark could sleep on her pillow instead of the shelf. I said yes. A week later, a neighbor I barely knew stopped me at the mailbox. I saw a real estate sign, she said, curious. Are you moving? I felt my face go still. No, I said. She leaned closer, like gossip was a community service. Your mom told my husband you were having difficulties. Of course she did. My mother's version of control is being the first person to narrate the story. I didn't correct the neighbor. I didn't argue. I just said, thank you, and took my mail and walked back inside, because I was done auditioning for sympathy. Late one night, weeks into the silence, I got an email from the brokerage. One sentence, formal and bland. We have withdrawn the listing at the direction of counsel. Attached was a PDF. Termination of listing agreement. I opened it and stared at the signature line. Not my name. My mother's. She had signed as authorized representative. Even after being removed. Even after being blocked. Even after the deputy handed me the keys. She was still trying to leave fingerprints. I forwarded it to Harlan. He replied with 2 words. Noted. Helpful. I sat at my kitchen table in the dark and realized that my mother's biggest addiction wasn't money or attention. It was authorship. She couldn't stand being a supporting character in my life. The house stayed quiet. Lena started sleeping deeper. She stopped asking if we were allowed to do things. One afternoon, she ran through the living room with Spark in her hand, and I realized I hadn't heard her run in a long time. I should have felt relief. Mostly I felt tired. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection in the microwave door, I look normal, and that almost makes me laugh. Because the most violent things that happened in this story didn't leave bruises. They left new reflexes. I still keep the curtain clip saved in a folder named Taxes, because that's the safest place for it. Nobody looks in a folder called Taxes. If you know, you know. And when people ask if I miss my parents, I don't know how to answer in a way that fits in polite conversation. I miss who I thought they were. I don't miss the people who watched a child from behind glass. The worst part is that the house didn't change. The hallway still creaks in the same spots. The kitchen light still flickers if you don't jiggle the switch. Life keeps its little habits. It's the people who change. Sometimes, when the wind hits the front door just right, Lena looks up like she's expecting the lock to click. I watch her face, and I don't tell her to stop being scared. I just sit closer, so if fear shows up, it has to share the couch with me. That's all I can do. Paper can stop a sale. It can't ever erase a memory. Sometimes, late at night, I still open the lock app and stare at that long, quiet stretch in the log. Not because I enjoy pain, because it reminds me why I don't negotiate with certainty that can lock a child out. So here's my last question, and I want you to pick a side. Comment 0 if you'd report everything, even if it destroys the relationship forever. Comment 1 if you'd keep it inside the family to preserve a peace you no longer trust. And if you've lived through anything like this, tell me what you did, because I read every comment.